Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We will begin a new session in a few seconds on place branding strategies. It's a question of approaches, and we will explore new territory, place branding strategies. And remember that it's a question of approaches. As I said, you are the protagonist of the summit. So engage with the ideas, with the speakers, with the participant. And let me say this, there are no dragons at the summit, so you can engage freely. Hic sunt dragones, here be dragons, used to be maps, old maps. It meant basically dangerous and unexplored territories. It came from a medieval practice, and you can see it down at the bottom, putting illustration of dragons or mythological creatures, sea monsters, and it meant that we didn't know what was laying there. The dangers could be there. Now, we can also say, like Thomas Bach said this morning, that new opportunities could be explored into unknown places. And with this philosophy in mind, we move to the next session, place branding strategy when sports move into iconic, but also unconventional location. And with this, I leave the floor and the freedom to chair, which is absolutely, not an arbitrary, but a very challenging freedom, to Tanya Heimlich, Senior Director at BCW Sports. I leave you the floor, and the floor is yours. Thanks a lot.
Okay, there we go. I'm going to take a seat. It's a little bit more comfortable. So today we're going to be talking about brand placements, which is a very exciting a topic. We have a great panel here for you. But thank you very much. Before I jump into introducing them, let me introduce you a little bit to what we're going to talk about today. Most of you here are from cities, and you're going to be using and thinking about using sport to brand your cities. So today we're really going to talk about how can you be active, what should you be thinking about. We have a great panel. We've got people here coming in all the way from Australia to be here with you today, all across Europe, expertise beyond. So enough from me. I'm going to introduce you to our great panel here. First on board, we have Krista Adams. Krista is the deputy. Yes, let's give her a good applause here. Thank you. Welcome, Krista. Krista is the deputy mayor from the city of Brisbane. She has a wealth of experience, 15 years in politics, and she is focused on using sport, especially the upcoming 2032 Olympic Games, to help brand her city and also make it an attractive legacy, not only for the city, but also its residents. So thank you, Krista, for being here. Looking forward to hearing your insights. Then we have Leonardo Battoro, Head of Brand Strategies at Volleyball World. So Leonardo is a passionate marketeer. He has over 10 years of experience. He has been working with international brands to ensure that they are well branded, placed around the world. Now he's working with volleyball to do the exact same thing, focusing a lot on beach volleyball. And we're going to hear a lot from him on what's going on, what the core values are, how to use those when we're placing a sport event in a city. After that, we have Alessio Punzi, who's joined by Julia Zarawig, who's joining us online. Welcome, Alessio. Alessio is the head of running and mass participation. He is the go-to man for running and mass participation, as I've been told. He has worked for many, many years now with a number of marathons around the world, as well as various World Trail Athletics events, from competitions to measurements on the course, to campaigns, to virtual he's our man. And then we also have Julia, as I mentioned before. She's joining us online from the city of Innsbruck. They are the next hosts of the 2023 World Trail World Championships.
Mountain and trail.
Sorry, mountain. Yes,
mountain.
Thank you. So enough from me. I'm going to leave it to our experts here. Krista, you're going to start us off.
Okay, I'll go up to the podium. I'll take this.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Tanya. It's my absolute pleasure to be here this morning, all the way from Australia. I'm going to start with hands up if you've been to Australia. Oh, that's not too bad. Now, keep that up. Keep it up if you've been to Brisbane. Hey, not too bad. But it is a small percentage, which actually explains why place branding for us is very, very important. We are extremely excited to be the newest of the Olympic City families with the announcement of the Summer Brisbane Olympics and Paralympic Games in 2032. But we do recognise that one of the shortfalls is on the night that we were announced, most people in the world didn't know where the heck we were. And we had a 15,000% increase on Google search of Brisbane on the night of the announcement, because I think everyone around the world was going, where the heck is Brisbane? So we have a very important role to play in the next 10 years to make sure that people learn where Brisbane is and they fall in love with Brisbane and what is so special about Brisbane, and they come and visit us. So we've been thinking carefully about this, and we're still thinking about our legacy, and we think the best way to explain it is that we are a lifestyle city. Brisbane is best experienced rather than explained. It's hard for our residents when you say, what is the best thing about Brisbane? They kind of look at you a little bit shocked that we don't have an opera house, we don't have an Eiffel Tower. We have a fantastic river, which is affectionately called the Brown Snake, which probably isn't appealing to you, but it's something that we do locally as well. But Brisbaneites aren't great at explaining what is so good about Brisbane, because it is really about the experience. And that's what we need to get to the rest of the world as well. Just a little bit of where we are for those of you who haven't been there before. We're the capital city of Queensland, which is on the east coast of Australia, and is most, as you can see there, of the east coast of Australia. Our city council area, from which I'm the deputy mayor, is in the dark purple. But we also have the Greater Brisbane area and, of course, South East Queensland region, which were the joint bidders for the Olympic Games. We are over 1,300 square kilometres, and we are 1.2 million people in population. For those of you that have been familiar with some of our other editions of the Olympics, this gives you our size and scale compared to other Olympic cities. So much larger than London City, but similar to Greater London. The same with Paris and Greater Paris, and Los Angeles as well. So a very large land area. People in Brisbane think we're very dense. We really, really aren't, after seeing what Hank was talking about just before the coffee break. But we are a beautiful subtropical climate. We have average temperatures between 15 to 25. So even for us, you're all complaining about the heat wave. This is a little cold for us. We have about nearly 40% of our local area is natural habitat. We have over 2,100 parks in our Brisbane City Council area, and more than 800 species of wildlife and 2,500 species of native plants. We're extremely biodiverse. And as I said, our beautiful beloved Brown Snake, the Brisbane River, is 114 kilometres in length and winds through Brisbane. So what we are trying to sell to the rest of the world is our livability. We are trying to get into the 10 livable cities in the world. We work very hard to make sure that we are up there as well. Scenic Rim, one of our closest council neighbours, is in the top 10 regions to visit under Lonely Planet. And the Olympic Games was not just about getting infrastructure for us, but for people to realise where we are and to come and visit us, because we do think the untapped potential for our brand is the tourism dollar. We already have a very active and healthy lifestyle, because if most people ask you what do you know about Australia, they'd say, oh, it's a very sporty nation. And yes, our residents are sporty. Sportification is probably not what we focus on in Brisbane, but recreation is our main focus. And just to go through some high-level stats, as I said, over 2,000 parks. If you visit Brisbane, there's 30 park runs to choose from. There's more than 160 dog off-leash areas, which I heard someone speaking about this this morning. 150 of our parks have gym equipment in them. We have over 200 basketball and netball facilities. We have free Wi-Fi in our larger parks. We have 20 BMX facilities and 38 skate parks, all free to residents and visitors in the city. We have 22 public pools. Again, Amsterdam, I see, is going up to 2 pools. That is definitely in our nature, is to be swimming. 22 public pools, which is paid entry, but 1 free public pool with a beach in the centre of the city at South Bank. But what we have been focusing over the last 10 to 12 years is the river access and making sure that recreation becomes a part of what Brisbaneites do and a part of what our tourists do as well. We have a River's Edge strategy, which we're happy to talk to you about if you want more information. And we have really made it more accessible to get to the river with river hubs and parklands, etc. It is definitely a swimmable river. It is clean, but I would suggest not, because there is sharks. So you may swim, but you'll also swim very bloody fast if they start coming near you as well. Just to really put that iconic Australia why you're all scared of us. Our river walk is definitely something that is beloved in our city. It runs between the north through to the western part of the city. One of the most popular ways to move around the city. It was totally washed away in our 2011 floods, and we have rebuilt it back in the following years so it can now withstand a 1 in 200 year flood. Our riverside precincts, again, something that we have definitely increased over the last few years with our River Ed strategy. And we're very proud for our residents and our tourists to start talking about our spaces that we use, as you can see there, for our healthy and active lifestyle. Or if you go into that big shed, it's a pub. So you've got options on both in our riverside precincts. And of course, South Bank Parklands. I was in Seoul last week when they talk about pre-1988 and post-1988, talking about the Olympics. For us, that is World Expo. We had World Expo in 1988, and what came from that site is our South Bank Parklands, which is very much our iconic feature in Brisbane. We have a beautiful beach right in the heart of the city. Straight across, and you can just see the CBD there, we start talking about, as Tanya mentioned, some of the iconic and different places that we have recreation. So the Kangaroo Point Cliffs that were a quarry 100 years ago and now are a beautiful outlook to the city are also used a lot for recreation. Abseiling, rock climbing, bouldering, as well as running and gym classes around the edge of the river as well. We are hoping to get far more citywide events, and I'll have to speak to Alessio about some of the running events we might be able to get into Brisbane. Now that we have the Olympic Games, we need to try and test our city as well, but we have beautiful bridges and iconic courses through our mountained areas as well. We're building new infrastructure, more green bridges so we can get active transport. This bridge, which will be finished at the end of next year, connects the heart of the city to our Olympic Park, so we'll make it a very easy walk across the river. And Mount Cootha, which is our largest mountain, which looks back over the city. That's 1,600 hectares of open eucalypt forest, which is very much a recreation space for our residents and tourists. Not only is it an outlook, we have our Brisbane tour to Brisbane, there's mountain biking, there's hiking, and all of those fantastic, wonderful recreation things you can do in space. Our newest addition to that, particularly with the announcement of the Olympics, is Victoria Park, or Baramban in the local language. That is a 60-hectare park, which was, until the middle of last year, an 18-hole golf course. We are changing it back into an iconic public park. It will be the home for equestrian and BMX freestyle events during the Olympics, but until then, it will be an open public space, and then it will be curated into wonderful natural retreats in an urban park with many spaces to retreat, or to hide, or to adventure in the coming years. We've just been out to the community to get their big ideas and talk about what they'd like to see in Brisbane. And people in Brisbane, a bit like Amsterdam, love to tell you what they think. And we had an extremely good community engagement with people as well. We're looking at doing up our under street and under train station areas into basketball courts, places to play. And we also then, of course, have sports precincts that will be wonderful opportunities for the Olympics and for the many decades after the Olympics as well. Thank you very much. I hope you've loved the photos, and there's so many more of you that now will want to visit Brisbane. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Krista. We're going to keep questions until the end, and then we can ask the whole panel for some questions. So thank you, Krista. Leonardo, you have the floor. Yeah.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here today with you. Let me start with the presentation. So I want to talk to you about a sport today that I think is going to bring us closer in the future, hopefully. And the sport is beach volleyball. So beach volleyball was once a summer fun, but has turned out to be today a global phenomenon in terms of sports and entertainment because of the engagement that comes with it. And in our world, the Beach Pro Tour is how we take beach volleyball to the world today as Volleyball World. So here is a unique sport and entertainment platforms that has several events across the world, and where we actually are proud to say that the fun goes far beyond the actual court itself. Because once again, we see beach volleyball as more of a sport. It's more an entertainment platform. And this is a little bit of the top mind keywords that comes to mind when you associate the idea of beach volleyball. It's more than a sport, it's a lifestyle. So that's where the idea of being active, engaging, dynamic, healthy, connected, open comes to life. Because once again, we're talking more about a pure lifestyle than just a sport itself. And if I was about to present you the Beach Pro Tour and the secret behind, we do have a simple recipe that makes our tour stops very iconic and very engaging for core or non-core fans. And the recipe, it's pretty simple. It's the combination of these two elements. The first one is the sports best. By sports best, we mean top athletes, well-executed events, a high-quality broadcast, content that is generated and published across multiple digital platforms, together, of course, with iconic cities. And by iconic cities, we don't mean just cities that have a well-known name in the world, but also have a commitment to use sports to drive further engagement with the local communities. So following, I have a few examples of cities that are part of the tour today that really stand out for who they are and the way they interact with their local community. The first one is Gstaad, here in Switzerland. Here, the sun arises in the heart of Switzerland, right in the middle of the Alps, for more than 20 years. So here you have hardcore fans, global athletes, and sport enthusiasts really having a cross and the date of the event, because this is something that do not want to miss. It's more than just about the game. It's about an engagement tournament that it's really activating everyone, no matter the age, no matter the level of sport that they play within the beach volleyball. Maldives, we went there for the very first time this year, and it's been overwhelming in terms of how many people actually wanted to be associated to it. On site, we didn't have a lot of public, of course, but online, it went viral. Across all our social media and digital platforms, the world was watching us because of the idea of associating such an iconic and beautiful location to a healthy and active sport has really put a mark in people's minds. The next one is Ostrava in the Czech Republic, and it's an interesting one. If you see on the background, we brought to the event to this industrial area that it's now committed to be renewed, uplifted, in order to drive further engagement 365 with local communities. So we brought the events in these specific locations to just help the city establish the commitment they have to look at this area as the future and no longer as the past. Paris. I will touch base on Paris in a few moments, but here a shot of the iconic boxes that the Roland Garros Stadium has. So we brought beach volleyball into the Roland Garros for the very first time ever, and you will see in a few moments how much fun this brought to the fans of Paris and how much engagement we were able to drive with this event. Last but not least is Hamburg in Germany. So the Hamburg brand itself as the active city. So there's no doubt that there's a clear connection in between us and the city of Hamburg. So here, the community is used to be active. They are open to experience active events. And this stop of the tour, it's one of the top ones we have because of this commitment from the overall community to be activated and be engaged with the city. So the fan experience, it's something that it's really close to us and extremely important. Like I said before, it's not just about the game, it's about the experience. And the fan engagement opportunities that come with the tour are immense, because here we have the cities with the opportunities to bring up specific communities, to make them interact with each other, and to have the world and the city itself being activated throughout the tournaments that we bring. And one example, once again, it's Paris, like I mentioned before. And this is a little video, 30 seconds, that will show you the energy, the interaction in between the game and the fans when it comes to the Beach Pro Tour. Again, it's more than the sports, it's about the experience. So I'm bringing a little business case of a city that was part of the Beach Pro Tour stop this year, that now has leveled up the commitments in beach volleyball and actually going to host the next World Championship in 2023, which is Tlaxcala in Mexico. So the city of Tlaxcala this year hosted one of the tour stops. The engagement that they received and the impact in the city and the region was so large that the city itself and the region decided next year to host the next Beach Volleyball World Championship. And this is a unique case because it shows how a city that hosted an event decided to implement permanent facilities for people to continue the experience of beach volleyball, then escalated the commitments to actually host a world championship that will give visibility to the entire world of the city and the region. So to finish, a few takeouts that I want to leave with you. The first one is the high quality broadcast. So when we bring the events to a city, we come with a broadcast package that it's delivering high quality and that actually puts the city in the world map for people to follow. We have on-site activation ideas that we want to implement to make sure that the engagement goes beyond the actual game itself. We would like to establish long-term partnership because in order to own a moment within the global calendar, it's important to have a long-lasting relationship. Xstat is an example of that. And then we are committed to dedicated content production because we know how important it is for City to come across as unique and authentic. So content is the best way to leverage all the values that cities actually bring to the different communities. Thank you.
Excellent. Good job. Thank you so much, Leonardo. And now, right before we start with our last joint presentation, we have a short video that Alessio will be presenting. There we go.
All right. Thank you, Tanya. Good afternoon, and thanks for welcoming me. What we are going to talk about today is this presentation will be in two halves. I will start off by explaining a bit of the thought process behind World Athletics deciding to develop this new property, and then Julia from the organizing committee of the second edition of the championships will explain their thought process and why they decided to bid and how this is helping their branding efforts at the city of Innsbruck. When I was given the title of this section, it was when sport moves into iconic and unconventional locations. And being track and field, being the sport of athletics, the most universal and one of the most diverse that exists, certainly what you see here is iconic. It's a stadium. This certainly is iconic, but is it unconventional? Track and field being so diverse, it only encompasses the sport of road running. It's a shot of the New York City Marathon, great exercise for city branding, also iconic, but probably you could argue that by now it's conventional. This has been going on for 50 years. Athletics, however, is also this. Athletics is also running off-road, it's also running in the mountain and in the trail running. And world championships in this the fact that we are the international governing body for the sport doesn't necessarily, though, gives us any superior rights over the discipline. It's not because you call something World Championships that it will be the best competition or the one with the highest quality of athletics. Nobody really owns a particular sport. It's simply a matter of how good you are at creating value. So we decided that even if there were already World Championships in this sport, various World Championships with a bit like boxing, if you wish, in which different organizations, which weren't really fighting to each other, they all wanted the same thing. Each of them had their own championships with varying calendar collocations and varying periodicity. Mountain running held since 1985. They are long-distance running championships, which essentially is a precursor of trail running, established in 2004. In 2017, the International Association of Ultra Running, not trail but ultra running, came up with their own iteration of trail running, and these events were certainly beautiful and did take place in lovely location. However, if you go see, with very few exceptions, if you go see who gets to host these events, is mainly small resorts. So the idea was, maybe there's a product here, if we bundle them all together and we create something big under the World Athletics umbrella with the World Athletics communications power behind, broadcasting expertise, direct connections to the athletics associations worldwide, and our clout in the world of sport, maybe there's a product. Trail running, mountain and trail running, I should say, it's a fast-growing discipline, and it really is. It really taps into an interesting demographics, especially in mature running markets like here in Western Europe. Less and less people are taking part to traditional half marathons, traditional road races, and more are in search of these edgier, if you wish, experiences. There are commercial opportunities also, we realize, and this is the key of the idea. In a mountain and trail championships, in a mountain race, in a trail race, the venue itself is the product. If done properly, if televised properly, and we know that with the advancement of broadcasting technology, which have been pioneered by the likes of the UTMB, this can really be done today. It wasn't the case 5 years ago, but today it's beautiful. If done properly, you essentially have a 4 hours, 5 hours ad of the scenery of the rural area that you want to promote. And for a city like Innsbruck, this will be really interesting. Also, from the standpoint of World Athletics, it's interesting for sponsors, because endemic sponsors really can't wait to tap into this demographic of high-spender event participants dying to buy the latest technology in shoe and apparel. Another reason for us wanting to do this was to stress our centrality in the road running space, politically give an advantage to our national federations in their respective countries, and the goal, being World Athletics the governing bodies, the main goal is always to make participation as universal as possible. Plus, there's a general trend of sports in nature that we wanted to also piggyback on. The results of this change in approach have been quite remarkable for us. When we opened bids for 2021, before COVID, we received more than 40 expressions of interest from literally all over the world. 5 of them turned into actual bids. And the event was eventually awarded to Chiang Mai, Thailand, big city of 2 million. and then postponed to 2022. For 2023, instead, 4 complete bids from 3 different continents were received, and Innsbruck got it. For 2025, we've just opened bids, so if there is anyone interested, come see me later. There is also value that can be created for the host, because unlike with other championships, for reasons that I'm keen to explain separately if you wish, 100% of the commercial rights stay with the host. Also, there are no broadcast guidelines because the venues are the protagonists here, so the organizing committee should be free to advertise whatever they feel that they should advertise. And I would like to invite Julia to talk about Innsbruck now.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, Sandro. Julia, can you hear us?
Hello and good morning, everybody.
Oh, there she is.
I can hear you perfectly, and I hope that you can also see my slides within just a minute. Can you see the slides?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So I'm Julia. I work for the Innsbruck Tourism Board. As you all know, Innsbruck has a long-lasting history with Olympics. We had them in the Winter Olympics in 1964, 1967, and the first Winter Youth Olympic Games in 2012. We cannot compare ourselves with other international big cities like London, Paris, or Brisbane because we are much, much smaller, and we would definitely not be recognized with the size that we have if we didn't have Olympic Games before. What makes us really unique is the location within the Alps, with the iconic landmarks situated within the mountains and in the Alps. So we are very proud to have been able to have the World Mountain Trail Running Championship being awarded to our region so that we are able to host them in the next year. So I just have a few slides where I have some impressions. We always try to promote ourselves with the city and the mountains. So we always tried to have sports, city, and mountains within our images. We are lucky that we have the Olympic legacy. Because of that, we have the ski jumping hill in Innsbruck, which is very iconic, where we now have for 71 years the World Championship ski jumping 4 hills tournament every year. We also have several other events in the city center. For example, also due to the bobsleigh, we have every year the luge, bob, and skeleton championships. We were lucky to have also been awarded to the UCI Road Cycling World Championships in 2018, which were directed directly through the Old Town and through the city center. So when we are doing events in our beautiful region, we always try to promote our iconic landmarks, the architecture, the history, the tradition, and the mountains all together and combined. So when talking about unconventional places, I would also like to mention the Golden Roof Challenge that has been established 17 years ago in Innsbruck. There we have long jump and high jump championships directly in the city center, and the athletes really admire the atmosphere that they have because nowhere else the audience can be so close to them. So this brings me now to the World Mountain Trail Running Championships and why we have been in the bidding application process to host the event. So as you see, we always try to promote the city center with the mountains, and therefore we love to have sport events that are really taking place in the nature. We know from our tourists and from our data that Innsbruck in Austria is really renowned for its proximity to nature, whilst Vienna and Salzburg is very much known for culture, music, and food. We are more known for the nature, and that's what our guests are really looking for. So what are our goals? We try to use as good as possible our existing infrastructure because we have, for the size of our city, a large number of infrastructure that needs to be supported every year, and that's where we try to have events taking place. We try to strengthen our image. We are working with the words alpine urban, so really the combination of mountains and city vibes. We are a young, lively city, so just imagine with 150,000 inhabitants, we have about 30,000 students. With a long history, so the city is really young and really open and international, and that's what makes us a perfect host city for the trail running championships, as this is also very new, trendy sport that's just about to get bigger interest globally. Of course, we try to generate economical impact, and also we try to promote our city to a wider public and to a broader audience. Because we have the rights and the opportunity to make our own live stream and to promote it on a global scale, we try to attract more guests to come to our city. So I brought to you an example talking about unconventional places. What we're trying to do is that we are planning to have a city trail going through the old city, which is right next door to my office. You can see there in the corner, there is the golden roof, which is there already for more than 500 years. And we're planning to have a city trail, not just as a part of the professional races, but also to have it implemented in the public races and to really make the sport aware to the broader audience, to the local people, and to everybody who lives in the city, so that not just the races are taking place out there in the nature, but also in the city center. So you can see we will have some wooden blocks there, we will have some stones among the race, and also we will try to implement some trees so that the nature really comes into the city center. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Great. Thank you. And thank you to all of our speakers today. We just have a few minutes left, but I'd like to maybe open up the floor to our first question. I'm sure you have a lot of questions maybe to ask our panelists here. Is there a first question I can take from the audience? Alternatively, I have some questions, so maybe I'll start with one, warm up the crowd a little bit. So, I mean, of course, we're talking about moving from iconic to unconventional, right? Listening to each one of you, there's a lot of thought, and it seems that it's also gone into your core mission, your core values, as you're looking forward, whether it's city or sport. And I'll ask this for everyone and have a think about it. What do you're thinking about, either from a sport perspective or a city perspective, what do you look for when you're hosting? Are you looking for specifically either a sport, if you're a city, that you want to identify a certain area in your city to say we would like to enhance this, therefore we're looking for this sport? And for a sport, when you're looking for a city or a partner, what are you looking for in terms of saying, is it that core mission, that core value we identify with, or are you looking really to say, okay, with our sport we'd like to go somewhere completely different now? Or are we saying that we'd like to repeat this year after year? What goes into that thinking ahead of time for you right now as we look, let's say in the years to come? I mean, you've got many sports that you're going to be hosting, a number of them on the Olympic program. But aside from that, what do you look for? I'm going to start with Krista, as you're right beside me here.
Yes. Well, from a city's perspective, for us, is definitely about the sport promoting our city to the world. Mm-hmm. What Leonardo was talking about with the Maldives and going viral, and I mean, who doesn't want to go to the Maldives anyway, but I'm sure the volleyball helped it. We like people seeing our iconic shots of Brisbane and saying, well, we'd like to visit there. We've had a few examples of that in the past. We hosted the G20 in 2014, and we know from Angela Merkel just walking out of one of our local pubs taking selfies with locals, our German tourism went up 30%. So if people can see us and they recognise what we have to offer, that gets the tourism dollar into Brisbane, and that's what we want to see out of our sporting events. We had a Manny Pacquiao fight a couple of years after that. Again, the Philippine tourism into Brisbane after that was spiking. So iconic shots, partner with the city to promote the city through the sport.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Krista. Leo?
Yes, so from our side, we would love to partner with cities that don't see this platform as a stunt, for example, because we do believe in repetition, we do believe in sharing common values. So we can really bring the tour as a beach volleyball event, but at the same time, we can really bring the tour as an opportunity for local communities to interact in active activities. So it can really be scaled based on the requirements or the wishes of the city, because what we do is really listen to them and trying to help bring those core values to the consumer, either locally and globally.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Alessio?
A couple of thoughts for me. First one is, it would be easy to go everywhere to the same place, every year to the same place. Clearly, you save lots of headaches and lots of money, but A, it's not particularly interesting after a while, and B, as the governing body of the sport, you have a mission you're committed to universality, so you have to really take the event to as wide number of places as possible to inspire more people and to give also to local athletes an opportunity to shine on their home soil. The other consideration is that it needs to be a marriage. With Innsbruck, and I'm not trying to flatter in you, it really seems like a good marriage, because what we want to achieve is exactly what they want to achieve. There will be some negotiations to be done, and I'm looking at you again specifically. If the Innsbruck city wants the race to go on a particularly scenic mountain, which their tourists want, and our sports people say, no, this is too dangerous, or this is not in line with the specificities of the sport, maybe we find a different solution. And you have to find a trusted partner rather than saying, here's the cahier de charge, implement it, see you again in 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you. Julia, I'm going to leave you. Do you want to add in as well?
I feel very flattered about what Alessio was saying. Now, we're really happy to have the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships in Innsbruck, as you said. Because it's such a young thing, we have really great ideas that we can implement, and it gives us the opportunity to grow together to a higher level and to implement the sport in a new era. However, Innsbruck, I have to say also, and I would like to mention that, is that we are a partner of a larger network, as probably also all the other destinations are. We have to collaborate with the Tyrol tourism area. We are collaborating with the governmental body of the state of Austria. So there are events and sporting events that have to take place, for example, national championships for several sports. So with the size that we have, and for the matter of infrastructure that we have, we sometimes need to be partner of the events, even though we think they don't fit to our image and to our brand. But because we have the infrastructure, we have to give a commitment and be a partner of the event as well, because we automatically get overnight stays and an economical revenue out of the events, even though that they don't foster our image and brand.
Excellent, thank you so much. I'm going to we just have 2 minutes left. Are there any? Oh, there is one question. I see a hand. Oh, thank you. If you could just state your name and where you're from, and then
James McKenna, Lake Placid. A question, there's maybe what you're searching for. Worldwide, there's an ongoing, and I would say a growing sentiment of inhabitants. Once you reach a certain amount of success, there's event fatigue identified by the residents. There's over-tourism. And I think as you grow for that success, there has to be more of a management tool engaged by the cities to make sure they don't reach that level, because it happens quickly. The world is seeing more travel. People are going to more events. And I see that, or many see that as something in our future that has to be better managed to make sure we don't get to that level.
Thank you so much. Maybe Krista, as a big city, a big sporting city, do you have any comments for that?
Yeah, and thank you, Lake Placid. I know you're a lot smaller than we are, and there is the issues of sustainability in a city and how much you have. We have the great advantage in Brisbane of being a sporting city. There is never an empty stadium, and we'll watch 2 flies race in Brisbane. So there is never an empty stadium when it comes to a sporting event. And Australia particularly likes sporting events that they can hold continually. We have regular large football matches. Our swimming championships are watched nationally wherever they are and attended. So it's not probably something that we have to deal with as getting over tourism, but we do have to manage the livability and the sustainability of the city. And that's something that as a host city for the Olympics, we're very conscious that right now we're an extremely livable city. We want to stay a livable city, and we need to make sure whatever happens with the Olympics for 2032, we maintain that livable city. And that is probably, hopefully, I hope we have the problem one day of having over-tourism. We'll see how we go in the next 10 years, but it's definitely something, livability and sustainability are very important.
Thank you, because I'm going to just I'm going to ask actually the city of Innsbruck also, just to make a comment as well. Julia?
Sure. It is a challenge because we tried. Am I still there?
Yep, you're still here. We can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you. We were planning to apply for the Olympic Games 2026, and the public decided to not be in the process to be in the bid application anymore for the Olympic Games, because we think it's just too big for our country, too big for the population, and there we have already seen some negativity amongst the large-scale events. I think the solution can be there that you have a diversified offer of events and locations. So we have events in the summer, in the winter, we have events on the mountains, but all in a whole area. So that's a solution that can be implemented, but it should be definitely managed.
Great, thank you. I think we have one last question.
Hello, Michel Coutait, World Obstacle. What are the strategies to maintain the city attractive after the event, and how can the sport organization can help in this challenge?
Why don't we just start with our sports?
Well,
Alessio?
in our case, I have it relatively easy because once you host a road running championships or a trail championships, you can start. Typically, you have annual races that spring off of that, so you do have a bit of a legacy. Yeah, and in the best cases, there is also a legacy of better infrastructure. And I'm thinking of Valencia for running is a classic example. They hosted championships once, and when we left town, the city running infrastructure was improved.
Excellent, thank you. Leo, do you have a comment for that?
Yes, on our side is pretty much along the lines of your thinking, because once the events are happening, the city has the ability to implement infrastructures, and our sports do not require a lot of effort. It's pretty simple, the setup. So we do see cities implementing an infrastructure that allows the communities to continue the participation beyond the event itself. Which leads to the next year event. So there's a continuation in between the engagement between the sports and the communities on site.
Excellent. And last comment, Krista, I'm going to leave you the floor. Is that all right for a last comment on this one?
For this one, our legacy, the reason we bid for the Olympics was that we did need transport infrastructure, so getting around the city for a growing population already. But it is a little bit as what the gentleman has said about the sport too. Once it's there, it's seen to be easy. We hope that the participants from the local area will get involved, will see the sport, be interested. It doesn't take much. As I said, we are a sporting nation, but we need to see as much variety as possible. We probably don't have the mountains to run in Brisbane, but we definitely are keen on volleyball and those opportunities. So the legacy is for our residents to see new sports and new opportunities and maybe find that spark that gets them to be that little bit more healthy and active.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for your questions, for being here with us today. I hope that our teams here, our panel here, have inspired you to think a little bit outside the box, moving from iconic to unconventional. So we look forward to the next panel after this. But thank you very much to our team here who has been with us. If you join me in thanking them.
Thanks, Tanya.
And I'll leave you the
Thank
floor.
you. Thank you, Brisbane. Experience rather than explain, but you did a wonderful job in explaining. There are no dragons in Australia, but there might be sharks. I mean, lifestyle, sport as a lifestyle, healthy, connected and open, and change of approaches. I mean, that was one of the themes, I mean, mostly in Innsbruck, I mean, and its relationship, I mean, with the Sport Federation.